Hello, you magnificent viewer. Thanks for spending your precious time here with me. If you subscribe, I promise to keep making videos that hopefully don't waste that time. Scout's honor. All right, I've talked enough. Let's actually do the thing. I brought the car to a halt, switched off the headlights, and settled in to wait. I glanced over the timetable. Right on schedule, the Monday Night Express was expected at 10:10 p.m. I checked my watch again. Just under 5 minutes remained before the final part of my plan would unfold. 5 minutes to sit. 5 minutes to reflect. This moment was the result of meticulous preparation over the past week. But the roots of the story stretched back more than a year. The first incident didn't register as anything unusual. After 2 decades of marriage, you don't expect fireworks every time. Now and then, there's a night that surprises you with its intensity. This wasn't one of those. All I could do was offer an apology and brush it off. But when it happened again the following week, I started feeling uneasy. The idea that I might be failing my wife, physically, terrified me. Even a temporary rift between us felt catastrophic at that point in our lives. Things had already taken a turn years earlier when our first child was born. Our intimacy dwindled. Erica always seemed exhausted. Or at least that was the explanation she gave. Once a month became our unspoken routine, if that. It felt like the baby absorbed all of her affection, leaving nothing for me. Eventually, I must have come to terms with that reality, because 18 months later, we had another son. I assumed things would improve as the boys grew more independent. I was wrong. Rather than face rejection, I simply stayed out of her way, let her sleep, and slipped quietly into bed myself. It hurt to recognize that her desire for me wasn't as strong as mine for her. Still, I told myself that marriage was about more than just passion. Even if we only came together once every few weeks, we still had love. Or so I believed. Then came a shift. After our youngest, James, left for university, we found ourselves alone again, and things began to change. Erica seemed more present, more affectionate. Once every 2 weeks turned into 2 or 3 times a week. Before long, our sex life surged. It felt like rediscovering each other all over again. I was thrilled. It wasn't just the physical part. We were emotionally reconnecting. For the first time in years, I felt truly wanted. Then came her confession. She still needed more. I suggested she see a doctor. That evening, when I came home, she seemed deflated. The doctor told her she was entering menopause. Apparently, her body was reacting to the end of fertility by trying to maximize its final chances of reproduction. He explained it would only last a year to 18 months, something to endure. From my perspective, it didn't seem like such a terrible thing. "I'm becoming infertile," she lamented. "It feels like something vital is ending." I reminded her that I'd had a vasectomy 15 years earlier. I did it because she wasn't comfortable with birth control methods, and that's when our childbearing days had effectively ended. "I don't remember being this moody," she said. "Well, you wouldn't," she snapped. "You're a man. It doesn't hit you the same way." "Hang on," I said. "The ability to have children matters to men too. That's why I hesitated so much before the vasectomy. But we agreed. Actually, you decided. No more kids. And now you're upset because you're losing something you already gave up. Doesn't that seem a bit contradictory?" "You'll never understand," she replied. I tried a gentler approach. "I'm sorry, Erica. I really am. But think of the upside. No more cramps, no more mood swings. That's something to look forward to, right? And the doctor said this would only last a year. That's got to be a little reassuring." "I guess," she said quietly. She hadn't fully processed it. It had hit her harder than she expected. I sat beside her and wrapped my arm around her shoulders. "In a year, this will all be behind you," I said. "Doesn't that give you hope?" She shook her head. "Not really. I actually like how I feel right now. I told you, I need more than you're able to give. It's not your fault you can't be here all day. But I have to do this. That last sentence disturbed me. She sounded like someone barely hanging on, as if she didn't want this phase to end. Just then, a distant owl called through the night, pulling me back to the present moment. I glanced at the dashboard clock. 10:15 p.m. Where was that damn train? The express line was never this late. I looked back out into the blackness, but the tracks remained empty. The night was utterly still. No lights, no movement, no hint of another soul. A chill crept over me. My left hand in particular was numb from the cold. I could have restarted the car to get the heater going again, but I didn't want to risk being noticed, so I stayed put. Maybe it was running behind schedule, but it would arrive. Soon, all of this would be behind me. My personal nightmare began while trying to keep up with Erica's relentless sex drive. The first time I lost control, lost sensation, really. She grasped the situation immediately. She blamed herself, said I was pushing too hard, expecting too much. But when it started happening more often, her sympathy wore thin. I'd planned to consult a doctor, but before I made the call, Erica tossed me a box of Viagra. "Erica, I need medical advice. This might not be the solution," I told her. "It might be," she replied. "And what's the harm in trying? If it doesn't help, then go see a doctor." I didn't know enough about what was going wrong to counter her logic, and frankly, she made sense. We had already lost any real spontaneity in bed, and now, with the pill's 30-minute buffer, it only felt more mechanical. Still, the pills worked. I tolerated the side effects. Each morning, I'd wake with a flushed face, blocked sinuses, and a splitting headache like I'd been out drinking. But the results made it worth enduring. For a while, anyway. Then the issue returned. I upped the dosage. Eventually, I hit the max limit, and even that stopped helping. My performance at work began to slip. You can't show up foggy and hungover every morning without raising eyebrows. In the same office worked the stunningly attractive Eugenia Venices, a Cypriot woman who stood 5 feet tall and carried herself with graceful elegance. We'd known each other since college, and she'd hinted more than once that she wanted something more between us. One afternoon, she stepped into my office and locked eyes with me. "Kevin Johnson, when are we going to start our affair?" she asked casually. "Don't say things like that," I replied. "Who said I'm joking? I love Erica. I'd never cheat on her. Besides, I can barely keep up with one woman, let alone two." I laughed it off, but the chemistry between us was unmistakable. At 32, Eugenia had her own history of pain. Her ex-husband Neville had abused her, emotionally, physically, and tried to control her with threats of suicide. He was a towering 6'6", played forward on the local rugby team, and was principal at a junior school. I'd helped her through that dark time. Now she seemed determined to return the favor. "Problems at home, Kev?" she asked. "No. What makes you think that?" "Come on. You're not a drinker, but lately you come in reeking of booze and looking like hell. Something must be seriously wrong for you to be numbing yourself like this." "It's not alcohol, Gene. It's the meds." "What meds?" At that point, I had no choice. I told her everything. She was appalled. "She gave you Viagra? Did you ever even see a doctor?" "Kevin, you might have a heart issue. That stuff could kill you." She insisted I stop taking them immediately and book a real appointment. I told her I would. Truthfully, I didn't need convincing. The pills had stopped working anyway. Eugenia gave me a long hug and made me promise I'd get checked out. Meanwhile, things were going downhill fast at home. "I need a real man, Kevin." The next day, I called for a doctor's appointment. The soonest I could get in was Tuesday. But Erica wasn't going to wait that long. That night, I stayed up until she went to bed, then followed her shortly after. But as I passed the spare bedroom, I noticed the light still on. Even more surprising, I saw Erica crawling into the empty bed. "What are you doing in here?" I asked. "Why aren't you in our room?" "You're no use to me anymore," she said flatly. "I can take care of myself. Honestly, you're just in the way. At least this way, I don't have to listen to your snoring. I crawled into bed alone that night, feeling like I'd hit rock bottom. The weight of failure pressed on me. Failure to meet even the most basic expectations of manhood. Alone in that cold bed, I couldn't find sleep no matter how hard I tried. Around 3 in the morning, her voice still playing on a loop in my mind, the truth began to take shape. She'd told me she needed a man, but now she was distancing herself, retreating. Was there someone else giving her what I couldn't, holding her in the way I used to? Erica kept her distance throughout the weekend. Saturday was lost to a day-long shopping trip, but she came home with next to nothing. Sunday, she went to church and didn't come back until it was almost dark. I knew I should have asked where she'd been, but deep down, I wasn't ready to hear the answer. Besides, I was too exhausted to press. The signs were clear. She'd replaced me. And if I needed proof, it came Monday night, when I found her folding clothes into a suitcase. "Where are you going, Rick?" I asked, my voice low. "I'm sorry, Kevin," she said, not even pausing. "But this isn't working anymore. You're just not enough for me." "Don't do this, Erica. This is just temporary. Things will go back to how they were. They always do." "I'm sure it's temporary, for you," she replied calmly. "But even when your issue's gone, I'll still crave what I've found." "I was talking about my issue," I said, feeling the sting. "Plenty of men deal with erectile dysfunction. It's not uncommon, and it usually passes." She paused her packing and gave me a tight hug. "I know you love me, Kevin, and I hate this. I really do. But he's younger. He's got a confidence you can't fake. He gives me what I need, what you can't right now. It's not your fault. I just need him for a while. Eventually, it'll fade. My drive will slow down or he'll lose interest, and then we'll go back to how we were." "We're not in love, you know," she added, her arms falling away as she returned to her suitcase. I turned and walked downstairs without another word. About half an hour passed before I heard her footsteps. She appeared at the top of the stairs, lugging 2 large suitcases, an overnight bag, and a valise. With the smallest bag in hand, she began descending and caught me watching her from the living room. "You could at least help me," she said. "I won't lift a finger to make it easier for you to leave," I replied. "If you're going, go on your own." She said nothing, just carried the bag to her car and returned. Her eyes met mine again, searching for weakness. I didn't flinch. She picked up one of the heavier suitcases and exaggerated its weight, showing me how hard it was to carry alone. At the front door with her final bag, she paused and looked back at me. "It doesn't have to be this way, you know," she said. "This isn't forever. You could just be happy that someone else is easing your burden." "Please, Erica," I said. "Don't go like this. We can survive this. You know this isn't about me. If you stay, there's still hope. But if you walk out now, that's it. You don't get to come back." I pulled out my phone and held it toward her. She glanced down and saw her number on the screen. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm removing you. From my phone. From my life. Are you going to do it or should I?" "Oh, don't be so dramatic, Kevin," she snapped, her voice rising. "Of course I'll come back. I just need a real man for now, not a disappointment." She cut herself off, the words lingering in the air. Realizing the damage, her tone softened. "I'm sorry, Kev. I didn't mean that." "No," I said quietly. "You meant every word." A single tear slid down her cheek as she turned and stepped out the door. I tapped the screen of my phone and watched the number vanish. The door clicked shut, and I secured the deadbolt with finality. That night, a storm of emotions tore through me. At first, I was furious. How could she betray me like this? I had sacrificed 2 decades, 20 of my best years, for her. And now, at the first real challenge, she turns her back on me. Weren't those vows supposed to mean something? For better? For worse? For richer or poorer? In sickness and health? and apparently in complete denial of everything else. What gave her the audacity to think I'd just wait around for her return? I tried to imagine my next steps. I'd track down the young guy she ran off with and ruin him. I'd kick her out of the house without a second thought. These thoughts looped endlessly through my mind, and I tried to summon the will to follow through on them. But somewhere deep inside, I already knew. I wouldn't do any of it. As the hours dragged on, sleep evaded me, and the sadness crept in. Every thought I had only made it worse. Eventually, I must have dozed off because I began to dream. I saw my students clustered in groups, laughing at sad old Kev, mocking my inability to rise in any way that mattered. I saw Erica and her new man sharing private jokes at my expense, her laughter sharp with mockery, missing the feel of someone real. I watched her calmly explain to our son how their pathetic father had failed when she needed him most. Morning came, and I could barely force myself out of bed. I brewed coffee I had no intention of drinking, skipped breakfast without thinking twice. I called the college and said I was unwell, then wandered aimlessly around the house. I wanted to cry, but no tears would come. By noon, I was barely functional. The sudden shrill of the phone snapped me out of the fog, but I couldn't remember where I'd left it. I upended the couch, flinging pillows in all directions until I finally found Erica's phone. That was the first real spark in me. Gripping it tightly, I walked into the bathroom and sat on the closed toilet. I had to act, to protect myself and our sons. I thought I could trust her, but I didn't even know the name of the man she'd betrayed me with. That meant I had to take control, especially of our finances. I headed to the bank. The staff, to my surprise, were compassionate and efficient. Following their advice, I opened a new account in my name alone, transferring just enough to get through the next month. I then withdrew from our joint account entirely. I drained our savings account as well. She and her lover could have their fun, just not on my dime. Back home, I contacted the life insurance provider. It amazed me how simple it was to remove Erica as the beneficiary and split the policy between my sons instead. The following day, I returned to work. Between lectures, I visited Human Resources and updated my payroll to deposit into the new account. I repeated the same update to my college-sponsored insurance. By Friday, I was sitting across from an attorney, signing papers to revise my will, which leads to Monday night. There I was, standing at the train platform, wondering why I felt frozen to the bone. The searing burn in my chest was relentless. I'd just glanced at my watch when everything shifted. The bell sounded. Red lights flashed, and the barrier lowered behind me. I turned my head in time to see the train round the corner. It was almost done. This long, aching misery was nearing its end. But something felt off. The train was crawling, much slower than usual. It seemed to be losing speed as it approached. Then, in the distance, I noticed two blue lights flickering toward me. The heartburn intensified to an unbearable level, and my hand clutched at my chest in reflex. Those flashing blue lights moved into my rearview mirror. A patrol car had stopped just beyond the barrier. I wanted to start the engine, to drive off quickly, but my hand stayed glued to my chest. Two officers approached. One knocked gently on my window. I couldn't react. The pain in my chest surged again. He asked if I was okay. I tried to respond, but all I could do was stare. My eyes grew heavy, and the world darkened as I slipped out of consciousness. I have vague memories, nurses bustling around me, the steady blip of machines, the touch of doctors assessing my vitals as I drifted in and out. At one point, I felt lips pressed gently to my forehead. A comforting hand held mine. And then, once more, I faded. But finally, the sunlight broke through. Golden rays spilled through the blinds, gently coaxing me back into the land of the living. My eyes slowly opened, and the world around me came into a vague, unfocused view. Shapes blurred and shimmered until, gradually, I could make out the television mounted on the wall above and the soft cream hue of the surrounding walls. I sensed someone nearby and turned my head, scanning the room. A few nurses were seated in the distance, chatting and tending to their notes. Then I looked to my other side, and there she was. "You're finally awake," she said gently. "We were really scared for a bit there." Her face was radiant. Her deep brown eyes overflowed with warmth and care. "Eugenia, what are you doing here?" I asked, still trying to process the moment. "Someone had to be," she said with a faint smile. "James is driving up this weekend. Peter's keeping in touch and said he'll be here as soon as possible. It's not exactly a short trip from Durham." "But how did you even know?" I asked, confused. "The hospital called me," she explained. "Apparently mine was the only woman's number saved on your phone, so they assumed I was your wife. At first, I thought the call was about my ex. But when I realized it was you, I didn't hesitate. I had to come." "How long have I been out?" "2 days," she said softly. "I've been coming and going between lectures. The college has been understanding. They're eager for your return. Some of your students are even hoping to see you in your uniform again." "And Erica?" I asked. "I don't think she even knows," Eugenia replied, her tone guarded. "She hasn't tried to call. She's not home either. I'm not hiding it from her, but I'm not going out of my way to inform her either." She paused, looked into my eyes. "I think she's part of why you ended up here." She reached for my hand, giving it a squeeze before brushing a kiss across my lips. When she glanced at the heart monitor, a smile spread across her face. "Look at that. Your pulse jumped 10 points. That must mean you're improving." She stood up. "I need to head back to campus for a while, but I'll return later today. Hopefully, the doctors will have more answers by then." True to her word, Eugenia came back just as the lead surgeon was making his post-lunch rounds. He began outlining everything that had taken place. "You're fortunate, Mr. Johnson," he began. "Fortunate that someone found you quickly, and doubly fortunate that I was still in the building after a tough shift when you were brought in. We had to perform an emergency coronary bypass. You're going to feel sore for a while, but so far your recovery looks promising. I'm honestly surprised everything went as smoothly as it did. Did you have no signs beforehand? No major symptoms?" "Not really, doctor," I answered. "I'd been dealing with frequent indigestion, a lot of heartburn, but I chalked it up to age. Felt more tired than usual, some breathlessness, but I blamed that on not being active enough." The doctor shook his head slowly, disapprovingly. "And no issues with intimacy?" he asked. "Well, yes, but I used Viagra to help with that." "You did what?" he snapped. "Who gave you that prescription?" "Nobody. My wife ordered them online." He groaned audibly. "Those damned online pharmacies. If I had my way, I'd shut down every last one." Then he turned sharply to Eugenia. "I hope you understand the gravity of this, Mrs. Johnson. Your husband came dangerously close to dying. All of this could have been prevented if he'd just gone in for a checkup." "Hold on a second," I said, raising my voice. "That woman isn't my wife. She's not to blame for any of this. I am. And my actual wife, for that matter. Eugenia tried to get me to see a doctor. I refused. This is on me." "I get that your job is to save people," I added, my voice cracking. "But truthfully, I kind of wish you hadn't." Eugenia's expression shifted in an instant. Anger flashed in her eyes. "Kevin Johnson, how dare you say something so selfish?" she said firmly. "What about your family? Do they mean nothing to you?" "The boys will be sad for a while," I muttered. "But they'll move on. I made sure they'd be taken care of financially." "It's not about money, Kevin," she said, her voice rising. "They don't need your wallet. They need you." She stepped closer. "And what about your grandchildren? Do you want them to grow up never knowing their grandfather?" "What about me?" Her voice dropped, but her conviction remained. "We all need you. So don't you ever say again that he shouldn't have saved you. If you do, I swear I'll walk out that door and never come back." She asked if she could speak to the doctor privately. He turned to me, silently seeking my approval. "Go ahead, Doc," I said. "I doubt I'm any help right now anyway." "As for my wife," I added, "you'll have to track her down first." Eugenia gently placed her hand on his arm and followed him into the hallway. When she came back, her eyes still blazed with frustration. "She left you, didn't she?" she said sharply. "And that's enough reason to want to end everything?" "To me, that sounds like a reason to celebrate." "You have no idea why she left," I muttered. "I can't do it anymore, not even with the help of Viagra. I've lost the ability to be a man in the most basic sense." "I don't hold it against her for walking out." "Well, I do," she said firmly. "She walked away from someone who was unwell. Even if she didn't know about your heart, she absolutely knew about your ED and what it was doing to you. And instead of helping, she made things worse, far worse. She just chased her own desires and ignored what you were going through." "Don't try to make excuses for her, Kevin," she said, voice hardening. "Maybe you're ready to rationalize everything, but I'm not there yet." "Right now, I'm completely useless to you," I said, trying to pull away. "You don't get to say that," she shot back. "You'll likely recover once they treat you. And anyway, most women need more than just that part of a man." She pulled up a chair beside my bed and clasped my hand, talking about everything that had happened at the office. She was still there when the police came in to speak with me. I asked that she remain while I answered their questions. They began by asking why I'd stopped the car on the train tracks. "I'm not sure where exactly I stopped," I told the officer, "but something felt seriously off. I pulled over to avoid crashing." "I understand, sir," the officer said. "But can you explain why you turned off the lights?" I don't really know," I answered. "Maybe it was just automatic. Engine off, lights off. Reflex, I guess." "You understand, sir, that we'll have to notify the licensing authority," the officer continued. "You'll need a doctor's clearance before you're allowed to drive again." "I completely get it, officer," I replied. "I was incredibly lucky. Please thank the responders who found me." "We'll make sure they know," he said. "Now let's leave you to rest." They had just turned to go when I remembered something. "Wait, officers, what happened to my car?" "It's been impounded at the station," one replied. "You'll need to cover the recovery costs to get it back. If there's nothing else, we'll leave you in peace." I looked over at Eugenia. She had her hands over her face, and I could hear quiet sobs escaping her. When I tried to reach for her, she pulled away. "You were seriously going to go through with it, weren't you?" she said, voice shaking. "You absolute idiot. You sat there waiting for a train to end your life." "Why, Kevin, why would you do that?" "Because of the boys," I said softly. "If it had looked like an accident, the insurance would have paid out a lot more." "You don't need to talk about it like it was some kind of numbers game," she said, voice breaking. "You tried to end your life." "I'm sorry," I said. I didn't know how else to handle everything. Tears streamed down her face as she rushed out of the room, barely avoiding the porters who were wheeling in dinner. That night, she didn't return. In fact, she didn't come back until the following afternoon. When she did, the smile she gave me was warm enough to thaw ice. "Don't think I've forgiven you for getting yourself into this mess without talking to me first," she said, her tone scolding but soft. "I thought we were more than that." "I'm sorry, Jean," I said. "I wasn't thinking clearly. You're my closest friend. I should have turned to you." "Is that all I am to you, Kevin? Just a friend?" "At this moment, Jean, you're the best friend I have," I answered honestly. "I can't say more than that. I'm still trying to figure out what it means to be a married man." "Still married? You really still think of her as your wife, even after she walked out on you? Even after everything she did to make you feel like you were nothing? She just disappeared to chase after some new man? Let me tell you something, Kevin Johnson. Being a man isn't about just hanging on while someone treats you like that. And if she couldn't recognize your worth, she was never good enough for you to begin with. How long have you been lying in this place now? 4 days, right? And not a single call from her. Don't fool yourself. She probably has no clue you're even here. Time to face reality, Kevin. If she still cared at all, she would have tried your house first. And when no one answered, she would have picked up the phone and dialed your mobile. But she didn't, did she? Because she's too wrapped up in herself to think about what you might be going through. Maybe flushing her cell down the toilet wasn't the most rational move. Didn't help? Honestly, I think it did. Helped a little too well. It was the day after she packed her bags. That damn phone wouldn't stop ringing. I found it jammed between the sofa cushions and, without thinking twice, I dropped it straight into the toilet. My guess? She probably came back looking for it. Somebody had definitely been inside last Wednesday, cleaning up maybe. And when Eugenia started laughing at the story, her eyes welled up with tears that rolled down her cheek. "Kevin, I'm sorry," she said between chuckles. "But that's hilarious. If she's anything like me, that phone had her whole life on it. Appointments, contacts, birthdays, everything. Everything important, gone with one flush." "You really are something else," she said, standing to leave. "I've got to get going. Just because you're in a hospital bed doesn't mean the college is going to overlook training requirements." She paused at the door. "I'll be back tomorrow. Think about what I told you." I watched her strut out in those sharp heels. The guy in the bed next to mine gave me a sidelong glance. "With a backside like that," he said, "if my wife walked like her, I'd be in cardiac arrest too." "No surprise you're in here." "She's not my wife," I muttered. "She's just a friend." "Yeah, and I'm the Queen of England," he smirked. "I've seen the way she looks at you. Wish someone looked at me like that." Take it from someone who's been through it. She wants more than friendship. And if you don't step up soon, you're going to regret it worse than you already do. My thoughts wandered back to Eugenia. She was attractive. That much was obvious to anyone. But more than that, I genuinely liked her. Sure, she could be feisty, but she was also smart, sharp-witted, and always managed to make me laugh. Was I in love with her? I wasn't sure. Our connection had mostly been professional, though a couple of years ago, I helped her deal with the mess of her divorce. That was the closest I'd ever gotten to being involved in her personal world. Now it felt like she was knocking on the door to mine. The following day, my son Peter showed up. He looked worried, maybe even a little angry. "Dad, what's going on? Where's Mom?" "I tried calling the house, no answer. Her phone just went to voicemail." I sighed. "I don't know where she is, Peter. She didn't leave a note, didn't say a word. She just left." "You mean she left you? What the hell happened? What did you do?" So I told him, most of it anyway. I left out the part about waiting on the tracks for the express from Exeter. When I finished, Peter looked stunned. "Damn, Dad. I always figured you and Mom still had something special. I used to hear you two talking at night over summer break, joking around. I thought you were still in love." "Things aren't always what they look like, son. We've been distant for years. Honestly, I think you boys were what held us together for as long as we lasted. But recently, we started reconnecting. Or so I thought. I started to hope maybe we had a second chance. But everything changed when my health issues started affecting intimacy. That's when I realized something. She didn't want me. She wanted a man, any man who could satisfy her. While I was fine, she was happy to stay. But the moment I couldn't perform like I used to, she bailed." Peter looked like he didn't want to believe it. I don't buy it. If she knew you were sick, I know she'd be here. Did you try reaching out?" "I can't call her," I said quietly. "I have no way of contacting her. And she hasn't contacted me either. They don't allow phones in here," I added, gesturing to the equipment around me. Something about interference with the monitors. I had turned on my phone a couple of times, but the only missed calls were from you and David. Eventually, I let Erica take over the conversation. I explained my situation to him as best I could and reassured him that I'd be back to my old self soon. Before he left, I made him promise not to say anything to Erica about what I was going through. "Dad, she deserves to know," he said. "You can't ask me to hide this from her." "All right, son," I told him. "Let's compromise. I won't make you lie. If she brings it up and asks, you can tell her the truth. But only if she asks." "That seems fair," he said. "But you don't think she will, do you?" "No, I don't. If she asks, she'd be admitting that we don't live together. If she were going to do that, she already would have." Peter stayed with me until noon. When Eugenia arrived, I introduced her as someone I worked with. Peter gave me a look, obviously suspicious, but stayed quiet until she stepped out. "Be straight with me, Dad," he said once we were alone. "Did Eugenia have anything to do with Mom leaving?" "No," I answered firmly. "She's just a colleague and a good friend. She's been incredibly supportive." I explained how she was the one who contacted him and James. When I was first brought in, I wasn't in any shape to give the hospital information. Hers was the only female contact saved in my phone. They assumed she was my wife and called her. From then on, she took care of everything for me. She's been a huge help, but if he thought she had anything to do with his mother leaving, he was mistaken. "I raised you to be respectful. Please act like it." Peter was more polite to Eugenia when she came back. She noticed the shift and seemed pleased. He thanked her before heading out, and she gave him a light kiss on the cheek. She stayed with me until evening, then left to get ready for her class. Over the next several days, I went through a series of medical tests. Eventually, the machines monitoring me were removed. When the surgeon visited again, I was a different man, grateful and far more optimistic. "I really appreciate everything you've done to keep me alive," I told him. "Feeling more hopeful now, Mr. Johnson?" he asked. "Because I've got some information that might brighten your outlook." He explained that my tests showed a testosterone deficiency, not uncommon at my age. The good news? It was treatable. "I can't guarantee a complete fix," he said, "but it would go a long way toward explaining your intimate difficulties, especially when combined with your heart issues." "If you can help me there," I joked, "you'll have my eternal thanks." That evening, I told Eugenia about it. She teased me, asking if things were already back in working order. She even joked about pulling back the blanket to see for herself. When my morning enthusiasm returned, I kept it to myself. She continued visiting daily, staying for a couple of hours, talking with the doctors, and winning over the nurses. To my surprise, the head nurse came to me with a concern. "Mr. Johnson, I've got a bit of a dilemma. Eugenia is clearly looking out for you and the nurses adore her. But they've been sharing information with her that they technically shouldn't, unless you authorize it." "I see," I said. "Well, first off, please call me Kevin. Everyone else does." "Thank you. Now, if you're comfortable giving your consent, I can make things simpler on our end." "Do you need that in writing, or is verbal okay?" "Verbal is just fine." "Then, treat Miss Venezis as you would treat my wife. Would that clear things up?" "It absolutely would. Thank you." I remained in the hospital for 10 days. The surgical pain was finally fading. The doctor gave me promising news, but it came with a catch. I was well enough to be discharged, but only if someone was at home to care for me. The problem was, I didn't have anyone waiting at home. I wasn't sure whether to lie and say someone would be there or be honest and risk staying longer. When Eugenia came that evening, I brought it up. "The doctor says I can go home tomorrow once the stitches are out," I told her. "But only if I have someone to help me, and I don't feel right lying about it." "Then don't lie," she said. "But that means—" She placed a finger on my lips and asked a question most men would dream of hearing. "Kevin, how would you feel about me moving in with you for a while?" I smirked. "Jean, you know I'm not supposed to exert myself, right?" She playfully slapped my arm. "Exactly. That's why I offered. The doctor says you can go, but only with someone to take care of you. I want to be that person, if you'll let me. Think you can handle home-cooked Mediterranean meals and me hovering around? I laughed. If that's the deal, I think I can manage. Great. If all goes well, you'll get those stitches out tomorrow, and I'll bring you home. I reached out and held her hand. Jean, the other day you asked if you were just a friend to me. You are a friend, a wonderful one, but you're more than that. I'm still trying to make sense of everything, I admitted. The last couple of weeks have been really tough. I've been married long enough that other women don't really cross my mind anymore. But if you're willing to overlook the fact that this old guy might just fall for his caregiver, I'd be more than happy to have you play that role. She gave me a knowing grin, one eyebrow raised. You're just angling to see me in scrubs, aren't you? Hand over the house keys, she said, reaching out. If you're heading back tomorrow, I'd better get ready and find a nurse's outfit while I'm at it. I fumbled around in my locker until I located the key ring and dropped it into her hand. All right then. Be on your best behavior, and I'll swing by to collect you tomorrow afternoon. The following morning, I was out of bed and fully dressed before anyone had even set the breakfast trays out. I shaved, cleaned up, and made sure I looked as sharp and put together as possible. The nurses took notice. A few couldn't help but comment on my sudden transformation. Before the doctor made his rounds, I had to undergo another ECG. He reviewed the results closely before coming over to examine me. After inspecting my chest and listening to my heart, he finally delivered the news. Well, Mr. Johnson, still feeling optimistic? Absolutely, Doc. I'm more than ready to go home. I hear you've got someone there to keep an eye on you. In that case, I'm comfortable discharging you today. He gave me a pointed look. Just remember, take it easy these next couple of weeks. After that, we'll introduce some light movement. If all goes well, you'll be easing into a full fitness plan in a few months. He extended his hand, and I shook it firmly. Take care of yourself, Mr. Johnson. A nurse arrived moments later. Come along, Mr. Johnson. Time to go home. The drive back was more entertaining than expected. Later, we sat side by side on the couch, zoning out to whatever was on TV. When bedtime rolled around, she helped me up the stairs and into my room. She paused in the doorway. Good night. And Jean, thanks for being who you are. Go to bed, Mr. Johnson, she added with a playful smirk, before your nurse decides she outranks the patient. At dawn, sunlight slipped through the curtains and crept across the floor. I felt the mattress shift beside me. Groggy, I opened my eyes and turned my head. There was a woman seated on the edge of the bed. Fully awake now, I realized it was Eugenia. Morning, sleepyhead. Time to rise and shine, she said. To help with that, I made you some coffee. Sit up and enjoy. I pulled myself into a sitting position and took the mug she offered. A real cup of coffee, something I'd sorely missed in the hospital. This is actually really good, I admitted. I was bracing myself for the sweet, muddy kind. 6 years working with you, she said, grinning. I know what you like. She placed her own cup on the nightstand and turned toward me. Running her fingertip gently along the scar on my chest, she said, It's healing well. Still a little red, though. After breakfast, she leaned over and gave me a quick kiss. Later that morning, as I was drafting an email and preparing lunch, the doorbell rang. Opening it, I found 2 of my best students, Alan and Daniel, grinning at me, each holding a pizza box. Special delivery, they shouted. Let's get inside, Kev, said Daniel. We brought food, you make coffee. I filled the machine and switched it on, and soon we were all seated around the table, munching pizza and sipping coffee. Eugenia said you're not supposed to lift a finger, Daniel said pointedly. Yeah, Alan added, and you've been keeping secrets. You and the nurse, he said with a smirk. Something's going on, isn't it? I shook my head. A gentleman never discusses such things. That's as good as a yes, Alan laughed. Show some respect, I said. That woman happens to be your professor's nurse. Sure, Alan said, but that doesn't mean she isn't stunning. I steered the conversation elsewhere and asked who had taken over my classes in my absence. They exchanged unimpressed looks. The college brought in a temp, Daniel said. Not exactly an upgrade. Alan nodded. He's behind the times. Doesn't engage, just sticks to the textbook. My more advanced students are used to exploring problems, not just solving them by rote, I said, frowning. We always had a motto. The right solution is the one that works. I made a mental note to get in touch with the department chair, at the very least to recommend assignment oversight. The idea that my students might be penalized for knowing too much was absurd. Hey, Kev, Daniel said. Think we could drop by now and then? You know, for unofficial lessons. We'll bring food and maybe a beer or two. I don't see why not, I said. It sounds like the perfect teaching gig, students who want to learn, coming here of their own accord. What could be better? Well, I added with a laugh, not getting paid is a slight drawback. Oh, but it certainly does. I'm on medical leave, so I'm still receiving my full salary. Would it be all right if we invited a few more people along next time? That's how I ended up unofficially managing the college application process. Within a fortnight, I had appointments booked for 3 days every week. Eugenia wasn't thrilled when the girls from the IT class began seeking me out. Since I spent most of my time at home, I didn't rely much on my mobile, so I kept it switched off. Following Gina's advice, I let the answering machine take care of incoming landline calls. She didn't want me rushing to pick up the phone only to hear another pitch from the marketing department. Peter and James figured out that if they started speaking, I'd pick up instantly. Still, a couple of the callers just mumbled irritably or tried to engage with the machine as though it were a person. The evening after the boys arrived, she made a delicious carbonara for me. After dinner, we curled up together on the couch. When it was time for bed, she walked with me to the bedroom door. The urge was too strong to resist. Would you like to come over to my place tonight? I asked. Oh, Kevin, you say the most charming things. I'll take that as a no. Are you serious? I've been hoping you'd ask me that for ages. She took my hand and led me toward the bedroom. You probably don't need much help imagining what happened next. The next day, I woke up to the rhythmic sound of a knife hitting a cutting board in the kitchen. Moments later, Eugenia entered with 2 steaming mugs of coffee. She sat down beside me. I've had feelings for you since we started working together, she said. I truly fell for you when you helped me move out of the house I'd shared with Neville. I honestly thought something terrible was going to happen when he started threatening you. But you stepped between us and told him to grow up. He was bigger than you, strong too, but you stood firm. He didn't dare lay a finger on me because if he had, he'd have lost his job and never worked in education again. Most guys would have walked away, but not you. You ignored his jeers and accusations and told him to speak up if he thought we were taking anything that wasn't ours. Yes, but weren't you surprised when he pointed at you and said, "She's my wife? You have no right to take her?" That's when you said something I'll never forget. I don't even remember what I said. What was it that struck you? You paused, stared him down, and said, "She was your wife. But she isn't anymore. If you think of a wife as a possession, like a car or a table, you never should have gotten married in the first place." That's when I realized you were exactly what I needed. You're intelligent, kind, courageous, loyal, and yes, very handsome. But more than that, you respect women for who they are. You've got a few extra pounds, sure, but I can work with that. The only real complication was that you were still married. We headed downstairs for breakfast, and that's when I understood what this morning was really about. Eugenia had prepared a fresh fruit salad topped with Greek yogurt. I blinked in surprise. She noticed my reaction. Clearly, I wasn't used to eating this way to start the day. "Told you we'd be switching to healthier meals," she said. "Don't worry, we won't banish eggs and bacon forever, but we're going to work on improving your diet." Works for me, I said. But don't expect me to start liking cornflakes. Then give me a list of what you can't stand, and I'll plan our meals around that. We enjoyed breakfast together. I added a slice of toast, which turned out to be just what the meal needed. As we sipped our coffee, my thoughts drifted back to our conversation in bed. So, if Erica hadn't walked out on me, would you have still waited? I asked. Yes, I think I would have. I knew things weren't right at home. You never spelled it out, but our talks made it clear. You weren't happy in that marriage. It was only a matter of time before it all started to unravel. And during all that, I didn't have the slightest clue. Why would you? She said, as she stood up and began tidying the dishes. One of us has to go to work, so I'd better get moving. I reached out, took her hand, and kissed it. Thank you, Jean. For everything. She smiled, kissed me gently, and headed out the door. When it was time for my follow-up appointment, she took the day off to come with me. They ran me through a whole series of tests, including the standard EKG. I was put on the treadmill for 10 minutes, then subjected to another round of tests before I even saw a doctor. Finally, I was called in to meet the specialist. He reached out to shake my hand. So, Mr. Johnson, he said, how are things going? Thank you, doctor, I said. And you're not in any pain anymore? None at all. Honestly, I haven't felt this good in years. And the other issue? Has that improved as well? Let's just say the bedroom isn't a problem anymore. That's wonderful news. Your test results look promising, the doctor continued. We can wait another 2 months before scheduling your next visit. In the meantime, I've arranged for you to meet with a physiotherapist. They'll help design a fitness plan tailored to your needs. Ideally, we won't have to see you back here anytime soon. I was relieved to learn the physiotherapists didn't insist on a gym membership. I had no interest in competing with strangers over who could lift the most or stretch the farthest. Instead, a kind woman suggested I begin with daily power walks. Swimming and cycling were also encouraged. I noticed Eugenia was eager to speak. When she finally posed her question, it caught both the therapist and me off guard. What about intimacy? What is it? She asked. The young woman turned beet red and let out a nervous cough. Well, it is good for you, she said, recovering quickly, as long as it gets your heart rate up for at least 5 minutes. Don't worry, Eugenia said, grinning. I'll make sure his heart gets a workout. The therapist smiled. I believe it. As we left the hospital, Eugenia wrapped her arm around my waist and pulled me close. See? She whispered. I'm going to be exactly what you need. The weeks following my hospital visit were some of the most joyful of my life. Eugenia collected my car from the police impound, and after my doctor sent in a medical clearance, my driver's license was reinstated. Although having the car back felt like regaining a piece of freedom, I started leaving it parked more often than not. I'm not sure when it happened exactly, but before long I found myself checking the time, counting the minutes until Eugenia came home. Our evenings were spent walking instead of zoning out in front of the television. Saturday mornings were for swimming, something I had always liked. Erica, by contrast, had loathed it. She was terrified of getting her head wet. I'd eventually stopped going because swimming alone didn't hold the same joy. But Eugenia was the total opposite. She was fearless, playful, and absolutely loved the water. Every time I surfaced, she'd be ready to splash me with a laugh. I told you, she said one morning in the pool. I told you I'd make you love me. She was right. She had reached a place in me I hadn't known was still there. That quiet anticipation I felt when she was away. It was love. I hadn't felt this light in years. Her warmth, her energy, her smile, they all broke through the fog I'd been living in. That Saturday morning, immersed in the pool, it hit me. I was in love. With Eugenia's love, a personal study project to keep my mind active, and a body that was healthier than it had been in a long time, I felt like I was on a high. The boys were due home for summer soon, and I threw myself into preparing the house for their arrival. On Friday afternoon, I was knee-deep in home improvements. I had just finished giving the woodwork a fresh coat of gloss when I heard the front door handle jiggle. I rose, wiped my brush in white spirit, and headed over. As I opened the door, the woman outside began to curse. "Rick, what are you doing here?" "I live here. What are you doing home?" "I'm on medical leave. And for the record, no, you don't live here anymore. You used to. You walked away. Remember? You said you were going to find something greener, or maybe just stiffer. If you're going to be cruel, I'll just come back later when you've cooled off. Not with those keys, you won't. I changed the locks." "You what? Why would you do that?" "I told you. If you walked out that door, you weren't coming back. I thought I made that clear." "Kevin, please. Can we go inside and talk about this?" I held the door open. She reached down for her suitcase. "You can come in," I said, "but the suitcase stays right there. You won't be needing it." Her eyes welled with tears as she stepped inside. We walked toward the dining area, and I gestured for her to sit. I took a seat across from her. The coffee machine was already gurgling in the background. "So, Erica, what is it you wanted?" I came back. The doctor was right. My sex drive is finally tapering off. I can manage now. Doesn't that count for something? That'll be great for whoever you end up with. Her tears broke free, mascara trailing down her cheeks in dark lines. That's when I noticed. She had really dressed up for this. Her effort was plain to see. I got up, poured 2 cups of coffee, and set one in front of her before sitting back down. She dabbed her eyes with a napkin and looked at me. "Why are you doing this, Kevin? This isn't you. I know I hurt you, and I'm truly sorry. If I'd been thinking clearly, I never would have gone through with it. But I wasn't. My emotions had taken over. I love you, and I know you love me. Can't we just move past all of this? You're wrong on both counts. You don't love me. Not anymore. Maybe once, briefly, but it didn't last. As for me, I did love you. I truly did." I slowly unfastened my shirt, revealing the scar etched into my chest. They opened up my heart, literally, and all the feelings I had for you came pouring out. She raised her hand to her lips, stunned. What happened? Why was I never told? I already explained. They cut into my heart, pulled me back from the edge. I'm sure the hospital tried to contact you, but no one knew where to reach you. If you had just called, I would have told you everything. Let's be honest, Rick. You were too caught up in your own world to care. That's not true. I lost my phone, and when I finally replaced it, all I had was that cursed voicemail. Your phone's always off, and the girl at the college switchboard won't even put me through. I figured you were just too busy with someone else. Stop it, Kevin. Don't talk like that. You could have at least informed the boys. Didn't they deserve to know I was sick? Eugenia told them. Peter even came to see me at the hospital. Then why didn't they say anything to me? If I had known, I would have come right away. I asked them not to mention it, unless you asked about me directly. I guess you never did. I couldn't bring myself to. I didn't want them to know what I'd done. Well, they know now. I told Peter everything, and James called me afterward to talk about it. I don't believe you. You didn't tell them everything. Oh, I did. Even the part about being a pathetic excuse for a man. No, they'll hate me for this. How am I supposed to face them when they come back? You won't have to. You won't be here. I heard the key turn in the lock. Standing up, I moved into the hallway. The door swung open and Eugenia entered. She spotted me at the dining room doorway, dashed down the hall, leapt up, and threw her arms and legs around my neck. I missed you. Did you miss me? Of course, I said. But we should behave. We're not alone. She glanced into the dining room. That's not a guest. That's your wife. Erica sat frozen, mouth agape in disbelief. Eugenia slipped off me and stood beside me, arms still wrapped around my waist. Erica slowly regained her composure. "What the hell is she doing here? And why does she have a key?" "Because she lives here," I answered, "which is more than I can say for you." Erica wasn't going to back down easily. Locking eyes with Eugenia, she launched her first attack. "Thanks for playing nurse, sweetheart, but you can go now. I'll take it from here. You see, Kevin's dealing with a little issue I'm sure he hasn't shared with you. You should probably run back to your boyfriend. I'm sure he's better equipped to take care of you than Kevin is." Eugenia smirked. "Kevin has everything I need, thanks." Erica blinked, visibly thrown off. Eugenia just kept smiling. "Some women have it, some don't," she said sweetly. "I'm going upstairs to change. I'll leave you two to sort this out." With that, she turned and disappeared up the stairs. Erica looked stunned for a second time. "Are you fully healed?" she asked. "I'm still recovering," I replied, "but everything seems to be working better than it has in years, especially down there. So now you see, you don't belong here." "But I love you, Kevin," she said, desperate. "Can't we go back to the way it used to be? I can change. I'll be a better wife. I promise." "That ship has sailed, Rick. You couldn't have truly loved me and still done what you did. Why don't you just go back to Mr. Stiftik? Maybe he can give you the happiness you're looking for." Her face collapsed into another round of tears, this one heavier, the kind that racked the whole body. She sobbed uncontrollably, tears flooding her cheeks. I fetched a box of tissues and handed it to her. Eventually, her crying slowed and she dabbed her eyes dry. "So what exactly happened?" I asked gently. "I'm sure old Stiff Dick would be thrilled to have you back." Erica lifted her head and slowly shook it. "I can't go back there. His wife's returning." "So he's married. And you still went through with it, Rick? You slept with a man whose wife was just temporarily gone?" She broke down again, her voice choking through tears. "I was so foolish, and now I've lost everything." "Not quite everything," I replied. "You seem to have kept a little secret stash." "Oh, right," she muttered, almost startled. "I noticed it when we started splitting up the finances. There's $5,000 in that account, and your name's the only one on it." Today had been full of shocks for Erica. She hadn't realized I had already separated our money or discovered her hidden fund. "I'd been saving that up," she said, "for our 25th anniversary. I wanted to surprise you with a dream vacation." "Well, that's clearly not happening anymore. Maybe you could use some of that money to put down a deposit on a flat." "You've got a solid job. You shouldn't have any trouble finding a new place." "That's just it," she whispered. "I don't have a job anymore. One of the trustees caught us in the act, right there in my office. They considered it gross misconduct and fired me. And the fact that Ron is one of the parents didn't help matters." Christ, Rick. I thought we men were supposed to be the reckless ones. "So let me get this straight. You lost your job, got kicked out by your lover, and now you're crawling back to me?" "No, I wasn't trying to come back to you," she insisted. "I was planning to be here for the boys when they get home." "That's not going to work," I told her flatly. "What do you mean?" "Don't do this, Kevin. They're my children too. You can't just bar me from seeing them." "I'm not stopping you from being in their lives. You can see them whenever you like, just not here. There's no space for you in this house anymore. You made your decision, Rick. You ran off to play house with Stiff Dick. But this is my home too." "No, Rick, you left. On your own. I didn't throw you out." "There's just no room for you anymore. Not now, and certainly not next week." "But I have nowhere else to go." I paused. Could I really throw her out onto the street? What kind of example would that set for James and Peter? I had to do something. "Here's what I'll offer," I said. "You can stay for 6 more days. You'll sleep in Peter's room. That gives you time to find a place and move out. Once you're settled, the boys can come visit you whenever they like. A flicker of hope crossed her face, even the start of a smile, but I ended it quickly. You won't be getting a key. If you go out and no one's home, you'll have to wait until we return. Fair enough. I guess it'll have to be. And what about dinner? She asked. I mentioned what I'd told Erica, though it was hardly necessary. She'd clearly heard every word. She got busy in the kitchen, making a delicious moussaka. Even Erica had to admit it was well done. After dinner, I carried Erica's bag to Peter's room and let her settle in. Once our usual routine resumed, Eugenia and I curled up on the couch and watched a bit of TV. Erica wandered downstairs for a while, but eventually returned to her room. As soon as she was out of earshot, Eugenia leaned in and whispered, "I've got something special in mind for tonight." "Oh, really?" I replied, catching on immediately. I took her hand and led her to the bedroom. There we came together in an intimacy that dulled the chaos of the day, eventually falling asleep wrapped in quiet relief. The next morning, after waking, I headed to the bathroom. No sooner had I stepped out of the shower than I heard loud voices erupting from the kitchen. I pushed open the bathroom door, trying to catch what they were arguing about. The voices were too muffled to make anything out clearly, so I crept up to the top of the staircase for a better listen. "You're wasting your breath," Erica said flatly. "He's mine. 20 years together, 2 kids, and he's not walking away from that." "Why not?" came the quiet reply. "You used to love him too, didn't you?" Hearing that, I exhaled silently. Eugenia knew exactly where to strike. She always did. "It was just a moment of weakness," Erica snapped. "He'll get over it. And when he does, you'll be nothing but a memory." "What makes you so sure he can forgive you?" Eugenia's voice held steady. "You abandoned him when he needed you most." "He loves me," Erica insisted. "That's enough." I had just stepped off the final stair when a sharp slap rang out. Still dripping with sweat, I made my way toward the kitchen. Suddenly, Erica stormed past me. I reached out and caught her by the arm. "What the hell just happened?" I demanded. She wrenched free without answering and bolted up the stairs. Inside the kitchen, Eugenia stood with a hand pressed to her cheek. When she turned to me, her eyes glistened with tears. "Is what she said true?" she asked. "Will you take her back? Forgive her?" "Yes. And no." She frowned. "What does that even mean?" I pulled her gently into my arms, soaking her robe with sweat. Tilting her face toward mine, I kissed her softly. "I'm furious with her right now," I said. "But I know the anger will fade, so yes, I can forgive her." I paused. "But don't confuse forgiveness with amnesia. I'll never forget what she did. That means there's no going back." I sighed. "She's got 1 week. That's all I'm giving her. Now, if you're hungry, bacon and eggs are on offer." Eugenia smiled faintly. "We'll have fruit, yogurt, and toast." She reached for the skillet, then stopped and put it back. "Wow," she said, stunned. "You passing on a greasy breakfast? That's a first." "Yeah, well, things are different now. Staying alive sounds a lot more appealing." She hesitated. "About earlier. I'm sorry. I was upset after how you acted last night." "You didn't need to humiliate me." I met her gaze. "I honestly don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do," she shot back. "All that yelling, don't pretend that's normal." "Eugenia can be loud," I admitted. "But last night, sure, maybe she was louder than usual. Still, that's not the issue. What you did this morning was unacceptable. I won't tolerate it again. I don't care how loud she gets. If you ever raise your hand to her again, I'll personally make sure you're out of this house so fast your feet won't touch the floor." I let the silence linger. "As long as you're under this roof, you will treat her with respect." "She's not your equal, Kevin," Erica muttered. "She's what, 30? She'll want kids and you can't give her that." "She knows everything," I replied calmly. And if we want a family, I'll have a vasectomy. End of discussion. Eugenia came back, and the three of us had a surprisingly peaceful breakfast. Afterward, I reminded Erica she needed to begin looking for a place of her own. You can't do that, she objected. This house is mine too. You don't get to throw me out. You want half? I asked. Then divorce me. That's fine. I had a forensic accountant look through the finances right after I left the hospital. That's how I found your hidden savings. You're entitled to half of what we were worth then. All you need to do is file for divorce. I won't, she said, shaking her head. I don't believe in it. We made vows. Until death. I met her eyes coldly. And you vowed to be faithful. That didn't seem to stop you, did it? You didn't really put up a fight. If you want out of the marriage, then so be it. Just don't expect me to foot the bill. Looks like you'll need to compromise those lofty ideals of yours. Please, Kevin, don't do this. My mind's made up. If you're after your share, then go through with the divorce. In the meantime, you'll need a place to stay. Naturally, she didn't rush out and sign a lease. By the time Wednesday rolled around, she was still empty-handed. Everything she'd looked at was either overpriced, inconveniently located, or simply unsuitable. She was dragging her feet, clearly hoping to justify staying in the house when the boys came back. I wasn't shocked. That Wednesday afternoon, we toured an apartment well within her budget. She claimed she liked it, but said she couldn't afford the deposit or the cost of furnishing it. What I didn't tell her was that the unit belonged to Eugenia and we'd planned for her to rent it. The moment Erica began listing excuses, I changed tactics. I'd call Eugenia, putting on a show of haggling over the details. Eventually, we even delivered some furniture, Eugenia's bed included. Thursday night, we moved Erica's things into that apartment. By Friday afternoon, Peter was the first to arrive home. He hugged me at the door, then gave Eugenia a quick kiss on the cheek. "Have you heard anything from Mom?" he asked. "Yeah," I replied. "She was here, sleeping in your room until yesterday." "She came back? After everything she did to you, she just waltzed in like nothing happened?" "She did, and she expected me to play along, to pretend everything was fine. She didn't think I'd tell you about it. She really thought I'd go along with the charade." "You know, Dad," Peter said, "it's hard to believe she's the same woman who raised me. How could she have changed so drastically? To you and James, she hasn't really changed. You two are still the center of her universe. I'm the one she's had a problem with. For a long time now, my needs, my feelings, haven't counted for much in her world. I guess I didn't see it. At first, I gave in because I loved her deeply. Later, I did it for peace in the household. I didn't want you and James to grow up surrounded by conflict. So I kept quiet. I let her have her way over and over again. Now I realize that little by little, I was eroding the last bits of respect she had for me. Peter embraced me again, his eyes brimming. "I'm proud of you, Dad," he said. "Both James and I are. But you handled it all wrong. We saw what was happening. We wanted you to fight for yourself, to win once in a while. But you never did. I was addicted. To her, to the life we had, to you boys. I would have sacrificed anything to keep it all together. Like any addict, I had to crash hard before I could pull myself up again. And when I hit that low point, the only way out didn't include your mother." James got back the next day. I was expecting a call from the station asking for a ride. Instead, he turned up in a beat-up old Vauxhall Nova, driven by a cheerful young woman. I opened the door and gave him a hug. His first words took me aback. Eugenia stepped out to say hello, rising on her toes to give him a light kiss on the cheek. "Hi, James. It's so nice to finally meet you." James took a step back, eyeing her. "So you're the Greek slut my mom warned me about," he said. "James," I shouted, "you've clearly forgotten how to behave. Go find your manners and come back." He turned to me, a mischievous grin forming. Sorry, Dad. Mom called last night, told me you kicked her out and replaced her with a Greek whore. She also said your heart attack was no big deal, nothing to worry about. I couldn't help taking a jab at her nonsense. He turned to Eugenia again and gently kissed her cheek. Hello, Eugenia. It really is a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for looking after my dad. He looked back at me, examining my face. That wasn't funny, was it? I'm sorry, Dad. No, I said. It wasn't funny, but it gave me an idea. I want you and Peter to go see your mother. You might not agree with how she's behaved, but she's still your mom. For 20 years, she gave her all to raising you both. They stayed with me for the first week before starting their summer jobs. I know they visited their mother at least once during that time. Once work began, they weren't around much. They were often off somewhere, but they promised me they still made time to see Erica once a week. Eugenia and I, on the other hand, took a small getaway. 3 relaxing weeks in Cyprus, naturally. I was introduced to every single member of the family, no exceptions. Aunts, uncles, grandparents, and cousins on all sides were there. They even held 2 separate parties just for us, and I had to pick up some dancing skills along the way. Eugenia enjoyed herself once she managed to quiet down her relatives, who wouldn't stop teasing her about marrying me. At the goodbye celebration, her father and brother pulled me aside for a serious word. They both gave me hearty slaps on the back, but the mood turned so abruptly, it caught me completely off balance. Kevin, I love you, her father said plainly. I love you as though you were my own blood. Giannis, he added, motioning to his son, feels like you're a brother. And Eugenia, she loves you with a fire your English heart probably can't fully grasp. Then he leaned in and said, but let me make one thing crystal clear. If you ever hurt my daughter, I will kill you. Right, Giannis? Giannis gave a solemn nod. Oh, yes, he said. We'll kill you. Not right away, of course. What about Neville? I asked, startled. If that man ever sets foot in Cyprus, her father replied coldly, he's a dead man. My brother works in airport security. The second he lands, I'll know. Giannis added, and if we ever go to the UK, we'll find him. And we'll deal with him. He thumped me on the back again, signaling the conversation was over. Enough now. Let's not speak of this again. Time to dance. Go on. The Bouzouki band launched into a song I only recognize as Zorba, and we made our way back to the floor. Shoulders linked, we danced in rhythm, and one by one, the other men joined the line. That night, as I got into bed, I brought up those threats to Eugenia. She laughed. He's not serious about killing you, she said. That's just a figure of speech. In Cyprus, when someone says they'll kill you, it means they're furious, not homicidal. If everyone who said that meant it, we'd all be long dead. It made me feel a bit better. Still, I was relieved when we finally boarded the plane and flew home. When the academic term began in September, the doctors gave me the green light to return to teaching. Eugenia and I showing up together raised a few eyebrows, but life otherwise fell into a familiar rhythm. In October, Peter and James came back to campus. The house grew quiet again, save for the sounds of our more intimate moments. Even during the summer, Erica had rarely left my thoughts, so I was caught off guard when she reached out. Everything all right, Erica? I asked. No issues, she said. I just wanted to talk for a bit. I got a job. That's great. What kind of work? Same as before, running a daycare. What do you need from me? A reference? Something else? No, nothing like that. The position's in Taunton. I'll be staying with my sister for now until I find my feet. I was just wondering, could you drive me to the train station? You don't want to grab a taxi? If money's tight, I can cover it. No, Kevin. I'd really prefer if you took me. It'd be good to talk. One last time. Sure. When? I can do Tuesday morning or Thursday afternoon. Tuesday morning works. Thanks, Kevin. Eugenia was convinced Erica had another agenda. I just wanted her out of my life for good. Maybe she wanted to finally discuss the divorce. Maybe that was wishful thinking. The weekend passed in a blur, and suddenly it was Tuesday morning. I was already waiting outside Erica's flat when she came out and invited me in for coffee. We sat in silence for a while before she finally spoke. I've been a selfish bitch, haven't I? You won't hear me argue. No need to sugarcoat it, Kevin. Say it like it is. You're asking for honesty. So, yes. Fair enough. Tell me something. Are you happy? Does she make you happy? Yes, I answered. She actually listens to me. She cares what I think. We're not constantly battling for control. Is this how you pictured us turning out? Back then, not at all. But after spending so much time in that hospital bed reflecting, yeah, this is how I see things now. Why's that? Isn't it true? I didn't realize it back then, but I understand now. I've always loved you, Kev, but somewhere along the way, I stopped admiring you. Whenever we hit a rough patch, you always gave in. I'd complain about the music you loved. You stopped playing it. I didn't want to go to biker meetups. You stopped going altogether. Come on, Rick, it wasn't just complaining. You didn't just say something, you'd barge in and shut the music off. And when I tried to push back, you'd go, "What is that horrible noise? Are you trying to get the neighbors to call the cops?" You went in hard, and I backed off because I didn't want the boys to see us arguing. I thought it wasn't worth the fight. But when it came to racing, you should have realized it wasn't just about me not wanting to ride. There was the guilt, the constant digs about how the kids needed new shoes while I was out enjoying myself at the tracks. You said I was always too busy for family, yet somehow had time to waste a weekend racing. I worked my fingers to the bone trying to give you everything you asked for. I gave up racing, not because I stopped loving it, but because the alternative was losing my family. And that was unthinkable. Now I look back and wonder, why didn't I ask you to give up something for once? But no, I gave up pieces of myself, and with every sacrifice, another part of Kevin Johnson faded away. I wasn't me anymore. I was just the guy you married, bending to every demand. Strangely, I found more comfort at work than I did at home. At the office, I mattered. My colleagues respected me. My students admired me. And yes, even the younger women flirted. At home, I felt like I was living under your thumb. But even that didn't make you happy. If anything, it just made things worse. You always got your way, but somehow the tension only grew. I remember watching you cry. You didn't say a word at first, just wiped your face, then met my eyes. "I'm sorry, Kevin. I don't know why I did the things I did," you said. "Maybe it's because of my parents. Their relationship was always full of drama. Mom would push Dad's buttons until he exploded. They'd scream and fight, then be fine a few days later. When I did the same to you, you never responded. You just stayed quiet. Took it. Eventually, I started to see you as weak. At least my father pushed back. But let's not forget, your dad left your mom when you were 12. Didn't that teach you anything? If that's the kind of marriage you wanted, Rick, you should have said so from the start. We could have saved each other years of pain. I'll be honest with you. I was ready to throw it all away the moment your affection turned cold. We made love once a month, if that, and only if you'd had a couple drinks first. You didn't even want me near you. Do you know what it does to a man being rejected like that? We drifted so far apart, and it just kept getting worse. Still, I stood by you. I told myself things would improve if we could just be alone again. That we'd either heal or finally break. Then you suddenly turned sweet again, touchy, warm. I really thought there was a chance, like maybe we had a future. But I should have known better. It wasn't about us, it was never about us. You were bored, and I was just the easiest distraction. She began to cry again, and I said nothing. I just sat quietly, watching her pull herself together piece by piece. After a long pause, she finally managed to speak. "Kevin, I'm sorry. I truly am. I didn't understand how serious things were until I remembered how I treated you. When things began to fall apart for you, I should have insisted you saw a doctor. But I was too wrapped up in my own problems to recognize what was happening to you. I was chasing a quick fix and handed you Viagra. God, I could have killed you. I understand why you're angry. The way I behaved, the things I said. There's no excuse. I don't even know what got into me. I thought I could do whatever I wanted and you'd just accept it without question." I checked my watch. "What time's your train? Shouldn't we get going?" She nodded. "The express from Exeter gets in at 11:15. I need to be there before that." "I'll grab your bag. Let's head out." I carried her bag to the car. It felt unusually light. As we walked past her own car, a thought struck me. "Why are you taking the train?" I asked. "Why not just drive and take all your things with you? You know I'm not a fan of long drives, and parking in Taunton is a nightmare. Besides, Julie's place is practically next door to the daycare center." She replied, "I offered the car to James. If he doesn't want it, maybe you could sell it for me." I gave a short nod and we got into the car. As Erica settled in the passenger seat, she turned to me with a smile so warm, so affectionate, it caught me off guard. "I can see it in your eyes. She makes you happy, doesn't she? That spark you used to have, the one I fell in love with, it's back. I've wondered where it went. I guess over time, I must have worn it out of you. But I'm glad it's returned." Traffic was light by then, and I got her to the station quickly. We parked in the short-term lot and just sat there for a moment facing each other. "It's really over for us now, isn't it?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "You crossed a line this time. There's no coming back." "Why not just finalize it?" she asked. "Get the divorce. Make it official." She reached out and gently touched my face. "I can't do that, Kevin. I made a vow. Until death parts us, and I won't break it again. Even if you divorce me, I'll still be your wife in my heart." I shook my head slowly, got out, and lifted her bag from the trunk. We walked side by side into the station and onto the platform. "There's no need for you to wait," she said. "You should head back to work." I nodded, starting to turn away, but she grabbed my arm. "Tell the boys I love them." "You can tell them yourself. Taunton's not that far." "Stop pretending, Kevin. They only visit because you send them. Give them time. They'll come around." She reached up, pulled me down by the collar, and kissed me, deeply, fiercely, with a passion I didn't expect to feel. When she pulled away, she whispered, "I love you, Kevin Johnson. And now I'm letting you go. Go before I break down again." My eyes stung as I turned and walked away. 20 years can't be left behind without feeling it. I climbed into the car and, without even thinking, started the engine and drove off. When I reached the college parking lot, my phone rang. It was Eugenia. I answered right away. "Did she leave?" she asked. "I think so. I left her at the platform waiting for the express from Exeter. She should be on her way now." "I'm not so sure," Eugenia said. "The express doesn't stop at Braunston Junction. It goes straight through to Taunton. Are you absolutely sure that was her train? She said she was waiting for it." A sinking feeling hit me. Oh no. "What is it, Kevin? What's wrong?" "I can't explain right now, Jean. I need to get back to the station." I dropped the call, turned the ignition, and tore out of the parking lot. I don't know how I didn't get pulled over. I was speeding, blowing through red lights, doing anything I could to get back in time. The moment I pulled into the drive, I knew I was too late. Flashing lights from police vehicles and an ambulance lit up the front of the building. I abandoned my car in the nearest spot and sprinted toward the entrance. A chain-link gate barred my way, locked shut. After several minutes of pounding on the metal and shouting, A uniformed officer finally approached. "There's been an incident, sir. The station's closed." "What happened?" "My wife. She's on the platform." "I'm sorry, that's all I'm authorized to say. I need you to leave now." I stood there, stunned and useless. With no better idea, and driven more by habit than purpose, I turned around and went back to the office. It's strange how capable a person can be while emotionally paralyzed. It's like flying on autopilot. Your body moves through routines while your mind stays somewhere else entirely. That's what happened to me. I shut down every feeling, every question, and just drifted through the day's tasks. At 4 p.m., the department head entered my lab. "Mr. Johnson, I need you in my office. I'll take care of your remaining duties today." When I arrived at his office, I wasn't shocked to see the same police officer from the train station. Next to him stood Eugenia. They asked me to sit. Then the officer gave me the news. Several witnesses had seen a man give my wife a warm goodbye on the platform. She seemed unsettled after he left. Moments later, as the express train thundered past, she stepped forward deliberately, straight into its path. There was nothing anyone could have done. She was gone instantly. Her funeral was modest. James delivered the eulogy. Toward the back of the church, I noticed a man and woman I didn't recognize. When the pallbearers began carrying the coffin down the aisle, I went to speak to them. They appeared ready to slip away, but the aisle was blocked by the casket and those carrying it. I extended my hand, thanking them for attending. The man suddenly broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm so sorry," he gasped. I didn't recognize him. His wife stepped in gently. "You don't know us, Mr. Johnson. My husband was on that train. He's been this way ever since. I warned him not to come, but he felt he had to." I wrapped the man in a hug, patting him on the back. "It's not your fault," I told him. "She made her decision, and your train just happened to be there. None of us could have stopped her." His wife gave my hand a firm squeeze. "Thank you," she said quietly, then led him away. There were more tears at the burial site, some real, others less so. My sons couldn't hide their grief. The pastor spoke his words, though they barely registered. We each tossed a handful of soil onto the coffin, and one by one, the mourners departed. A light rain began to fall. I stayed behind, just me and the grave. "You know, Rick," I said aloud, "this wasn't how it was supposed to happen. I always thought I'd go first. You'd be here teasing me about Stiff Dick moving in. And the train driver, well, I guess I was just as selfish about him as you were in your final moments." I looked down at the casket. "I'll watch over the boys. They love you, and I suppose I did too in my own way. I never imagined it ending like this." I released the last bit of earth from my hand and turned away. Eugenia waited for me by the cemetery gate. She held the limousine door open. Inside, James and Peter sat quietly. "You'll need to be strong for them," she said gently. "And I'll be strong for you." 3 weeks passed before the boys went back to university. Their schools encouraged them to continue the term, and I think they wanted the distraction. I insisted they each check in with a counselor weekly. Once they were gone, I finally allowed myself to grieve. As Eugenia reminded me, I had just lost 22 years of shared life. I'd lost someone I had once dreamed of growing old with, someone I had truly loved. The pain was expected, she told me. Whenever I cried, she was there, never letting me face the sorrow alone. Her constant support only deepened my affection for her, and 3 months later, I asked her to marry me. My parents, along with Ioannis, will be attending the wedding. If I were Neville, I wouldn't let myself get distracted.